Hey coaches, we're going to talk about the golf grip today and the setup generally. So PGA, we talk about posture, grip, alignment. We're going to cover those basics for your golfers and try to get your golfers in a good setup position. So first thing, most important by far is the grip. So how you hold it is going to impact how you have power and then the club face orientation and to some degree the plane, although we're not going to get into that too much today. So we're going to start out with holding it with your lead hand. For most golfers that are right-handed, this is holding it with your left hand first. Put that left hand in a position where that V, or little crease, is pointing to the right shoulder. The more we turn this hand this way, the more we're in what we call a strong grip position, and the more leverage we have on the club face to close it. So if you can imagine, if I turn my hand sideways, now I've got 4 knuckles showing like that, I could very easily turn that club face over through a process called supination, meaning rotate my form. I could go 180 degrees. Now imagine if I grip it in a position where I've got the left hand more under the grip. Club face is square. How much can I rotate it? Only about 90 degrees. So you understand that during the golf shot, my hand is supinating or going this way, and that supination is going to close the club face, and the grip we have on it decides how much that's going to happen. So the left hand's a huge factor there. So generally what we'd recommend is 2 knuckles showing. That's a good neutral position, neutral to strong. And for players that are slicing it, we can go ahead and go a little stronger. There's nothing dirty or wrong about going 3 or 4 knuckles, as long as the plane is okay and they hit the ball high enough. The stronger the grip, the more tendency you're going to have to the player learn how to create shaft lean and get the handle forward. We're also going to see some hooks, which means the player may not flip their hands as much. So junior golfers tend to have a matchup where a closed face grip or a strong left hand grip will generally result in faster hip speed and a more aggressive club head speed over time, okay? So let's get that neutral left hand going, 2 knuckles there. The right hand we put on, and we're trying to get the right hand to match up with about 2 knuckles showing as well. And a lot of kids, when you just give them a golf club, they're gonna have their thumb down here. We wanna get in the fingers, and what I tell them, it's real simple, is just shorten up your thumb. So this entire part of your thumb, just pull it back a little bit so that when you're holding it, you can see that the index finger on the right hand and the thumb are about the same length. On the back, you can do whatever you want. For golfers that don't have a whole lot of strength or power, I'd recommend just going 10 fingers is fine. If they've got decent strength and maybe bigger hands, you can go interlock or overlap. There are minor pros and cons of each. Generally, more pros go with the overlap, or what's called the Varden grip. This is actually the Varden where they kind of fit in between the knuckles. This is called the overlap, if you want to get picky about it. But some of those little details don't actually matter all that much for most players. I try to get either interlock or overlap. For most players, interlock's a little bit easier to get going with. So that's the grip. And now let's talk a little bit about alignment, and what we'll talk about it would be posture as well. So take a look at my setup here. I'm going to have a fairly neutral setup with my posture, and looking from that view, my spine is in a fairly flat spot at the bottom. If we are going to make a mistake here, what we want to have is slightly tailbone down, which means what we call posterior tilt. It's not sticking our butt way back. When you have your butt sticking way back and we have a big cup in the lower spine, which might be okay for doing squats, yeah, you could argue. If you're doing that sort of stuff with your lower spine, you're going to early extend during your swing and your hip section won't rotate as fast. So we want to have that spine in a position of tail down. The weight should be very slightly on your toes, but fairly balanced toe to heel. One way you can test this is put an alignment rod underneath the middle of the feet or a pool noodle and see if they can stay balanced on the middle as they're swinging, okay? So that's the setup we're going for. The spine should be neutral, ball position fairly middle for irons, slightly more forward for longer clubs. Wedges you can play even a little bit back of center depending on how they have kind of shaft lean and turf interaction. All right, alignment, I would generally say get them square. Pretty easy to just get some alignment rods down and you're good to go on that as well.